Hi, Katie here, and today I'm looking at bearings. First thing you want to be checking is how your wobble's going. Putting a hand at the top and the bottom of your wheel, jacked up, and I'm feeling a little bit of movement there. So once you've checked it, take your wheel off, lower it down so it stops it spinning so you can loosen off your wheel nuts. You can also loosen off the Allen nuts there. Handy tip, leverage is your friend. So wheels off, nuts are out, got the up on the jack, got my tyre up into there just in case, and got the blocks in behind the wheel and also the handbrakes on. Make sure you're keeping these in a safe spot. We start taking things apart, and everything you take out, make sure you're putting out in order on a clean enough surface. We are eventually going to be taking this whole hub off. Inside the hub is pretty greasy, so make sure you've got some hand protection. And the first thing we come across is a circlip, so grab yourself a pair of circlips pliers, and you're going to be working it out of this area. Be gentle because we're going to be reusing these pieces. Inside here we've got a ring with teeth in it, which goes on to this bit with teeth on it. We'll clean up all of those and put them back in afterwards. Now I found these Phillips screws to be a bit of a hassle, so I want to be as gentle as I can. I found the best way to get these off is just with a ratchet, very gently with that pressure. So these bolts being pretty delicate, make sure your bit fits in them as best as possible. Take out this ring here. This one corresponds with the inside one here, and that's what holds our bearings in. This one here is going to be spinning on the thread. Now I don't have a proper tool for this, so I just use what I can and what I've got. I don't damage any of these parts, but this is so tight and I don't have the correct tool, so I'm going to be using my persuader to protect these big holes here. So these are the two big holes that your tool's supposed to go into, specialised one. So I'm going to be using this here, and to protect them I'll put a bit of material in as well. So for that to loosen up, these small holes on here, that's where your screws go into from this one here. There we go. This here's our outer bearing, and I'm going to now take off the brake caliper so that it'll release the rotor and we'll be able to slide this whole thing off. Here's the top bolt, down here's the bottom one. We take both of these off and work our caliper off. Like I said before, leverage is your friend. I'm using a breaker bar and 19mm socket. So got in that one. Go for the bottom one. That's what it looks like. That's all I'm using to break these bolts. Once I've broken them, then they come off with my ratchet. By holding the caliper up, helps loosen off the pressure, and they should just undo like that. I'm taking the brake off, I try and work it a bit looser. Get another persuader. There we go. Now make sure this here doesn't fall off. So your caliper's just on here with this tube here with your brake lines, so don't damage that by letting it hang. Used a bungee, that'll do the trick. These are all my bits. And now we pull the whole rotor off. And be careful not to drag it across, because you've got a seal on the back as well. Okay, so here's your whole hub and rotor. Inside here you've got the race that the outer bearings sit in. They cruise around like that, and so these just slide out. They're not attached to anything. And then you got this race here. We've got our new ones that we're going to be putting in. So there's the race there and the bearings here. So we're going to be popping this one out and putting our new one in. Inspecting the inside, we've got the seal here. We're going to be popping that one out and putting this one in. And we've got our inner bearings there, they're the bigger ones. And first you have to get the seal out to get these out. And they just seem to float about in there. Same thing, they've got the bearings and a race that needs to go in there too. Because I'm replacing this, I'm not too worried about damaging it, but you don't want to be bashing the hell out of it, so that'd be damaging the actual rotor, or actual hub. Yeah, that's what you're looking at. Bearings and your race. Now you're gonna clean up all of this, use a bit of degreaser, and then we'll grease it all up with new stuff and then put it all back together. We're gonna look at getting these races out as well. Now you want plenty of rags because you want to get out all of this grease that sits in here. The bits are degreased now, and we're going to be taking out these races. You start from the inside, so I'll be taking out the race on the other side and pushing it down. I'm not going to reuse these ones, so not too worried about damaging them as such, but I don't really want to be making a big mess of it. I already have on this outer bit here, getting frustrated trying to get that seal out. So try and avoid those things. We'll push too hard on the other side. This one's popped out, and I've turned it all over so they now can go for the inner race. I'll be hitting it along here and here. So this one I found to be pretty stuck. So I've used this area here and this area here where there's big gaps. What I found helped was just tapping around the sides all the way as well. Tapping evenly around the race. As I expose where the race is going to sit, I don't want to damage that inside, so I'm just going to be using my bit of material to protect that outside just in case I slip. Slowly but surely the inside races come out now. I'll be degreasing all of this, and a little trick I've heard is to put the new races in the freezer for a while. So apparently that makes it easier to get back in, so I'll test the theory. So to get the races in, I heard this trick also, where you put a cut in the old races. These are some old ones from the other side that I've already done, but I'm going to cut this and test that theory on putting in the new races using this here. By cutting it, it means that it's easier for this one to then be pulled out rather than having two of them stuck in there. Right, I've retrieved the racers out from the freezer and hopefully they'll slip in easily. Now I've also put a cut in my old racers and cuts along the sides as well, so the idea for that is that I'll be able to tap them out a bit easier as well. The way you want to put them in is with the thick end on the inside, so that when that is inside there all the way in, our bearing will be able to just slide right in like so. However, this here needs to be right up onto this lip on the inside. Because they've been in the freezer, they're actually condensing, so I don't want them to be going in there moist. So I'll give them a dry, and then we're going to put a light grease of marine grease over top of them. I'm using this grease because on the Terrano, my 4x4, it's quite good having the marine grease for going through water. I love to take my beast up and down rivers. As you can see, bunch of scratches that there's fully missing from some gorse, lots of cracks, that's all missing there. So for the rivers, going up and down rivers, if water does get into there, that marine grease is going to help make my bearings last a bit longer. So a light amount of grease for this, because it does want to be stuck in there quite tight. I'm putting the old one on top here and tapping it around so it evenly slides in. Okay, so here it's flush right up against this rim here. Well, the freezing and the cutting seem to work a treat. Alright, let's put on the outer rim. Dry it. Lightly grease it. Lightly grease the inside as well. Whenever there's any metal on metal, you want it to have some grease. Okay, the outer bearing, same thing, you want the cone shape so that the thicker end is on the inside, so that the outer bearing sits in with the cone shaped pointing inwards. Same thing, lightly tapping it all the way around. Getting it to sit in there evenly. Now that that's flush in there, I'm going to get another race. So this is the one that I replaced a while ago. This one here's from this set. So I'm going to put that one in and then pop this one in on top here. Okay, so now that's flush against this rim here, this lip. Same on this side. Okay, so there your racers. In. Yeah. While we're at it, we'll look at the hub as well. So in here we've got a spring that's in a lip here, and so we can pop that out and that'll help release the mechanisms within here. We can give them a grease up as well. So I'm just pushing that in and working it up, in and out. And that's what holds this mechanism in here. Okay, so this is what's inside a Nissan Terrano 92's hub. You've got a ring here which has a bunch of bearings on it. We'll give that a bit of a clean up. We've got this here which is inside the hub with a bunch of teeth and gears in it, and that's part of what helps turn your wheels and also put it into full drive. So, do I know how it works? No. Does it work by magic? Yes. But what I do know is that by having these mechanisms all greased up and all looking good, helps make your car go forward, and that's the main aim for me here. Oh, hello. Okay, you've got a seal here as well. There, and then... Alright, we'll do this part of the hub first, and regrease the inside. It's okay to be a little bit more liberal now. We want this to stay in here and last for a while. Grease not only lubricates between metals, it picks up all the dirt and crap that ends up in these and pushes them all inside inside the rotor area, so it keeps it away from between the metals. Alright, this one here went in next. So this one was the one with the little bearings. You can live in there. This one here. And then this main unit here. Now because I can't pull it apart, well, because I'm scared to pull it apart, there is actually a big like a big C-clip in here. It looks like you can pop out and pull this apart, but I am not going to do that because I can't be bothered. So I'm just going to grease all of the outside up, and I'm going to try and push it into between the mechanisms here. Now it's going to be like how we do the bearings. I'm going to do it on my palm, and then a good chunk on my palm, and then I'm going to push it in this way. That goes, that'll spread all within there. See bits pushing through here. There we go. So now this bit. Well, this bit goes where these gears are. Goes in first. Follow that in there. And then the spring or coil bit of metal, I'm going to work it so it ends up back into that lip where it came from. I'm going to start with one end and then just feed it through. And work it around, pushing it down into that gap. There we go. Okay, so that's the front part of the hub. We'll do the inner bearings and then we'll get that seal on and pop it on the axle. So liberal amount on your palm. I'm going to be pushing it up into these gaps all the way around. You can see it start coming out now. So when I repacked the trailer bearings, I didn't replace them. I just took them out, gave them a big clean, and then repacked them. and by doing so I was able to save myself a bit of money buying new bearings. Now these bearings I bought from an Australian company through Trade Me, and they are way cheaper than what you get at your Repco or your Super Cheap Auto. So it's good to shop around. So all the way around, bunch of grease all on this. Alright, happy with that. There's one. While I'm here, do the outer. So this one is smaller. See it coming up through there. Okay, 1, 2, done. Put a bunch of grease on this bit. That's where it's all going to be going. Now we've got the seal to go on. So it goes on the inside here. Your bearing will go in here, and then your seal goes on top. So your seal has this spring, so that's facing the outside. The middle bit here goes on the inside here. Okay, so it's your bigger bearing. Just goes in like that. No need to force it in or anything. It just sits so that it's going to spin around the race in there. And then our seal is going to go in here like that. So same thing as when we were putting the race in, make sure you're tapping it in evenly so it goes around and you don't damage this here. A little bit of grease in here. We'll just get it started nice and gently. Okay, so it's flush, and just a bit of greasies everywhere. This is your seal, so it's going to be keeping a lot of the crap out from the inside. So anything that gets kicked up, this here will help keep that grit and sand out. Yeah, so that's the inner bearing and inner seal done. Much of you getting grease on your rotor here, because it's actually going to all burn off when you use your brakes. We will give it a wipe down before. I'll put it back on though. Okay, on the inside I'm going to chuck a bunch of grease on the inside here, and that's where a lot of the sand and dirt is going to be kicked into, so it keeps out of your working mechanism areas. And of course I'm putting a bunch of grease over everything else as well. Okay, your outer bearing, smaller, cone shaped, fits in here. So small end in first, and that'll sit right in there. Okay, time to put everything back together. And just gonna give this a bit of a wipe on the inside. And be careful lifting this, it's pretty heavy, and be gentle putting it back onto the axle there. I've put the outer bearings on as well, so I'm just going to push them on as I push the whole rotor on. Wiggle it up and down so you get those outer bearings up onto the axle, onto the spindle as well. There we go. Okay, next thing that goes on is this fella, and this is the one with the thread, goes onto the thread here. And the direction it goes on, I've actually got a bit of a wear mark along here, so it doesn't have the straight edge as this side, so I'm going to be putting it on in this direction so that the straight edge is going to be on the outside. for our other piece to lock onto. Doing my best not to cross thread it, get it on there so it slides along easily. Now this wants to be on pretty tight. This is what's going to make sure that the bearings are set right in there, that the hub stays on the spindle correctly, and that you've got no movement. So if it's too loose, you'll get a bit of movement, and that's if your bearings are buggered as well. If your bearings are buggered, then that'll make that movement. And this movement here we want to lock down. And I'm going to be testing it by wiggling it backwards and forwards, and I'm also going to be using this in my persuader to lock it on there a bit more. And give it a wiggle. I'm going to be putting this piece here on, and that has some gaps here where these inner teeth go into. And then what you're looking for is the holes that line up for the screw holes. Because this outer one doesn't turn, you have to pull it off and figure out where those holes are. So you got one there, 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 and there. I'm just going to clean them out a little bit. There we go, and I can see screw holes in that one and that one, so that's what we're going to be using. Alright, this setup is what goes on next. There's a spot for this here as well. This one here goes on next. There's a bit of metal bent in this way, so it goes in little bent metal bits in that way first. And there's a wee spot for it to sit in there as well. Next one is this ring here with the teeth on it. So follow the teeth, and that slides on there, and then our wee goes onto that, and you've got a bit of a lip in there for it to sit in. Your circlip pliers, and then work it back on over that first lip, over that first one, and slide it right back on, pushing it into that lip. Next bit that goes on is this bit here. So where these metal bits, these teeth bits, they actually go on that way there, because it corresponds with what's going on inside this hub. So that one goes on in there, and that'll do its bizzo. I've no idea what it does. And then the spring goes in here, and that just sits in there, or seated in there. And so for somewhere along the line, that pushes against that, and that turns, everything turns, and the teeth grab onto the teeth, and magically your wheel will be in four-wheel drive, and then it goes forward. That's exactly how that is done. I'll just give this a bit of a wipe. Now what keeps the water out on this is there is a rubber O-ring that goes on the outside of this lip, and so when you put it on, that seats inside here, keep making it waterproof. Alright, on you go, pop it on. I'm going to give this a big clean, and then we'll put all our bolts back in. lift up the front of the hub there, and that'll help drive all these bolts in. Just like when you're putting the wheel nuts back onto your tyre, make sure these bolts go in evenly, so keep going around, evenly putting them in, and that'll help all of them set the front of the hub here onto the rest of the hub, onto the rotor, I guess, evenly, and you won't be de-threading any of these. Also give it a wiggle, help it out, sitting back on to the rotor. We'll probably tighten these back up when the wheel's back on and lowered, so that the whole rotor won't spin. Alright, let's put this caliper back on. Be gentle with it. I'm going to slide it back on this way. Got the top bolt, bottom bolt, do them up. Like to lift it up and down so that it gives it that room, so there's no pressure on the bolt going back in. Same with the bottom one. Putting on your brakes, you want that to be bloody tight. Everyone talks about torque. I don't have a torque wrench, so I'm just going to do it as hard as I can. We'll give it another test. Pushing and pulling from the top and the bottom. Not feeling any movement there. Yes. Okay, this might be a job for another day. Bit of movement on this way, so that could be the bushings on the suspension, but not today. Right, talking to about 60 kgs. Golden!